Hey there, folks. Welcome back to Common Sense USA. This is your host, your name, and I'm thrilled to have you join us today. We're all about tackling those everyday life issues, the ones that leave us scratching our heads, with a healthy dose of practicality. No sugarcoating, just straight talk and real solutions. Today, we're diving headfirst into the often murky waters of relationships. More specifically, we're going to unravel the mystery of why we cling to those unrealistic expectations we harbor for our partners. You know what I'm talking about, right? That secret hope that they'll magically transform into the perfect partners we envision. We've all been there, caught in the trap of thinking, if only they'd change this one little thing. But let's face it, expecting someone to fundamentally change who they are is a recipe for disappointment, heartache, and a whole lot of unnecessary friction. So, buckle up as we explore why this expectation is a relationship killer, and more importantly, how to build a more fulfilling and genuine connection based on acceptance and understanding. Let's be honest, we all have our quirks, our flaws, those little rough edges that make us who we are. And guess what? So do our partners. It's tempting to think we can sand down those edges, mold them into a version that fits our ideal a little better. But here's the hard truth. People are far more complex than that. Expecting your partner to undergo a dramatic personality makeover just because you wish it were so, is like hoping for a pet goldfish to suddenly sprout wings and fly. It's simply not in their nature. This isn't to say people can't evolve or grow, they absolutely can. But real, lasting change comes from within, from a place of self-motivation and a desire to become a better version of themselves. It's not about forcing them into a predetermined mold that we've deemed perfect. This expectation of transformation often stems from our own desires for a fairy tale romance, where our partners seamlessly align with our every want and need. But real life, my friends, is a bit more complicated than a fairy tale. So, what's the alternative? How do we navigate the complex world of relationships without falling into the trap of unrealistic expectations? Well, stay tuned because in the next few sections, we're going to unpack this very question and equip you with the tools you need to build a stronger, more fulfilling relationship based on acceptance, communication, and a healthy dose of common sense. Let's face it, folks, entering a relationship with the expectation that your partner will change is like buying a fixer-upper house and expecting it to magically renovate itself. You might have grand visions of gleaming hardwood floors and a gourmet kitchen, but the reality is those changes require a whole lot of work, time, and most importantly, a willingness from the house itself to undergo those transformations. Similarly, expecting your partner to morph into a different version of themselves is a surefire way to set yourself up for disappointment. It's like hoping that cactus in your living room will suddenly sprout orchids. It's simply not in their nature, and no amount of wishing or hoping will change that. This wishful thinking often stems from a place of love, of course. We see the potential in our partners, the best versions of themselves, and we yearn for them to embody those qualities fully. But true love, my friends, is about accepting people for who they are, quirks and all, not for who we hope they might become. Now, I'm not saying you have to love every single quirk your partner has. Let's be real. There are going to be things that drive you a little nuts, habits that make you roll your eyes, and those moments where you wonder, what in the world were they thinking? But here's the thing, those imperfections are part of what makes your partner unique. They're the brushstrokes that create the masterpiece of who they are. Think about it, would you rather have a partner who is perfectly bland and predictable, like a plain bowl of oatmeal? Or someone who surprises you, challenges you, and keeps things interesting, even if they occasionally spill coffee on the rug or forget to put the toilet seat down? Embracing those imperfections, those quirks that make your partner who they are, is essential for building a genuine connection. It's about recognizing that love isn't about finding someone who checks off every single box on your imaginary list. It's about finding someone whose strengths complement your weaknesses, whose flaws you can accept, and whose company you genuinely enjoy, even when they're driving you a little crazy. Acceptance, my friends, is the bedrock of any healthy relationship. It's about acknowledging that your partner is a complete individual, separate from you, with their own thoughts, feelings, desires, and yes, even flaws. It's about letting go of the need to control or change them and instead appreciating them for the unique individuals they are. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything your partner does or that you can't express your needs and desires. In fact, open and honest communication is crucial for any relationship to thrive. But it's about approaching those conversations from a place of acceptance, not judgment. Instead of saying, "You always leave your socks on the floor. Why can't you just be more tidy?" Try approaching it with, "Hey, I noticed you left your socks on the floor. Would you mind putting them in the hamper? It would really help me keep the house tidy." Accepting reality in a relationship also requires a good dose of self-awareness and honesty. Are you holding on to unrealistic expectations because you're afraid of what it means to accept your partner fully, flaws and all? Are you projecting your own insecurities or past experiences onto the relationship? It takes courage to look in the mirror and ask ourselves these tough questions. But it's in those moments of honest self-reflection that we can begin to dismantle the walls we've built around our hearts and truly open ourselves up to the possibility of a love based on authenticity and acceptance. Remember, you deserve to be with someone who loves and accepts you for who you are, not for who they want you to be. And your partner deserves the same from you. So, how do we make this shift from fantasy to reality? How do we move from a place of unrealistic expectations to a more grounded, accepting space? It starts with letting go of the fairy tale and embracing the beauty of a love story that's uniquely yours. It's about recognizing that relationships are a journey, not a destination, and there will be bumps along the way. But those bumps, those challenges, are opportunities for growth, both individually and as a couple. They're chances to learn more about yourselves, about each other, and to build a love that's strong enough to weather any storm. Let's be real, folks. We all have an image in our minds, a sort of mental blueprint of the perfect partner. Maybe they're a combination of Ryan Reynolds' charm, Beyoncé's confidence, and Mother Teresa's compassion, all rolled into one irresistible package. We see these idealized versions of love in movies, in books, on those picture-perfect Instagram feeds, and it's easy to get swept up in the fantasy. We start to believe that if our partners would just change this one little thing or that one annoying habit, they'd be closer to that ideal we've concocted in our minds. We tell ourselves they're perfect except for, but here's the catch, perfection is an illusion. It's a constantly moving target that no one, not even Ryan Reynolds, gasp, can ever truly reach. And when we chase after this illusion, we set ourselves and our partners up for failure. We become so focused on what's missing, on what we wish were different, that we fail to appreciate the very real, very wonderful person standing right in front of us. We've all heard the saying, love is blind, and in those heady early days of a relationship it certainly can feel that way. Those rose-colored glasses are firmly in place, and every quirk our partner has seems endearing, every flaw easily overlooked. We're swimming in a sea of hormones and butterflies, and the thought of anything disrupting this blissful bubble is simply unthinkable. But like all infatuation, this initial blindness eventually fades. The rose-colored glasses slip a bit, and we start to see our partners not as idealized versions of themselves, but as the complex, sometimes messy, always human beings they truly are. This is where the trouble can begin. We wake up one day and realize that our partner's charming habit of leaving dirty dishes in the sink is actually starting to drive us bonkers, or that their carefree approach to time management is causing us a whole lot of stress. Here's another common reason why we cling to those unrealistic expectations. We're projecting our own desires and unmet needs onto our partners. Maybe you grew up in a household where emotions were rarely expressed, and you crave a partner who's emotionally open and communicative. Or perhaps you have a deep-seated need for adventure and spontaneity, while your partner is more of a homebody who thrives on routine. It's perfectly natural to want these needs met, but expecting our partners to fulfill every single one is a recipe for resentment and disappointment. It's like asking a fish to climb a tree. It's simply not in their nature, no matter how much we might wish it were so. Instead of placing the burden of fulfilling all our needs on our partners, we need to take responsibility for our own happiness. This means finding healthy ways to meet those needs ourselves, whether it's through pursuing our own passions, nurturing our friendships, or seeking professional support when needed. Let's be honest, folks. Hollywood has a lot to answer for when it comes to our skewed expectations of love and relationships. We're bombarded with images of whirlwind romances, passionate declarations of love, and couples who seem to navigate life's challenges with effortless grace. But here's the thing, real life is rarely as glamorous or as simple as a 2-hour rom-com. In the movies, conflicts are often resolved with a single dramatic kiss, and characters rarely argue about whose turn it is to take out the trash or who forgot to pick up the dry cleaning. These romanticized portrayals of love can leave us feeling inadequate, like our own relationships are somehow lacking if they don't live up to these unrealistic standards. It's important to remember that movies are just that, movies. They're designed to entertain and provide escapism, not to serve as a blueprint for our own love lives. Real relationships take work, compromise, and a whole lot of patience. They're messy, they're unpredictable, and sometimes they involve arguments about whose turn it is to empty the dishwasher. Deep down, our desire to change our partners often stems from a need for control. We tell ourselves that if we can just get them to change this one thing, or that one annoying habit, then everything will be perfect. We'll finally have the love story we've always dreamed of, the one that's perfectly tailored to our every need and desire. But here's the hard truth, we can't control other people. We can't force them to change, no matter how much we might love them or how hard we try. The only person we have any real control over is ourselves. When we let go of this need for control, when we embrace our partners for who they truly are, flaws and all, we open ourselves up to a deeper, more authentic connection. We create space for love to flourish, not based on some idealized version of perfection, but on a foundation of acceptance, respect, and genuine understanding. Alright folks, let's get real for a moment. If you're constantly fixated on those fix-it projects in your relationship, on those aspects of your partner you wish you could change, you're missing out on all the good stuff. It's like going to a concert and spending the entire time complaining about the person standing in front of you blocking your view, instead of just enjoying the music. When we're stuck in that negative headspace, we become blind to the qualities that drew us to our partners in the first place. That quirky sense of humor, that infectious laugh, that way they can always make us smile even after the toughest of days. Those things start to fade into the background, overshadowed by our desire to change them. So how do we shift our focus? How do we break free from that cycle of negativity and start appreciating our partners for who they truly are? It starts with a conscious effort to redirect our attention. Think back to when you first met your partner. What were those qualities that made you go weak in the knees? What did you find charming, endearing, or downright irresistible? Was it their quick wit, their infectious laugh, their unwavering loyalty, their kind heart? Whatever it was, those qualities are still there, even if they're sometimes overshadowed by those little quirks that drive you crazy. Make a list, either mentally or on paper, of all the things you appreciate about your partner. Focus on their strengths, their positive attributes, those things that make them special and unique. And here's the key. Don't just keep this list to yourself. Share it with your partner. Tell them how much you appreciate their sense of humor, their thoughtfulness, their ability to make you feel loved and cherished. These expressions of gratitude, these reminders of why you fell in love in the first place, can do wonders for strengthening your bond and shifting your focus from negativity to appreciation. Now, I'm not saying you have to pretend that those annoying habits don't exist. Let's be real, there are going to be times when your partner does something that drives you up the wall. But instead of letting those frustrations fester and turn into resentment, try approaching them with open and honest communication. Remember, your partner isn't a mind reader, though wouldn't that be nice? They can't possibly know what's bothering you unless you tell them. But here's the catch. It's all about how you communicate those needs and desires. Instead of launching into a laundry list of complaints, try framing your concerns in a loving and respectful way. Use I statements instead of you statements. For example, instead of saying "you never listen to me," try saying "I feel unheard when I don't feel like I'm being listened to." Remember folks, setting boundaries is not about controlling your partner or trying to change who they are. It's about protecting your own well-being and creating a healthy dynamic within the relationship. It's about recognizing that you are two separate individuals with your own needs and limits, and it's perfectly okay to express those needs and to expect your partner to respect them. Of course, setting boundaries is only half the battle. The other half is about being willing to compromise and to meet your partner halfway. Remember, relationships are a two-way street, and it's about finding that sweet spot where both partners feel heard, respected, and valued. It's about creating a space where you can both be your authentic selves, quirks and all, without feeling the need to change for the other person. One of the most liberating things you can do in a relationship is to accept your partner's limitations. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or settling for someone who doesn't treat you with love and respect. It simply means recognizing that your partner, like all human beings, is a work in progress. They have their strengths, their weaknesses, their areas where they excel, and areas where they might need a little extra support. Instead of focusing on those areas where your partner falls short, try shifting your attention to their strengths. What are they good at? What do they bring to the table that complements your own qualities? Celebrate those strengths, encourage them to pursue their passions, and appreciate the ways in which they enrich your life. Remember folks, love isn't about finding someone who's perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections you can accept, whose strengths you can celebrate, and whose company you genuinely enjoy, even when they're driving you a little crazy. It's about building a partnership based on mutual respect, understanding, and a whole lot of love and laughter along the way. Alright folks, let's talk about communication. And no, I'm not talking about those vague Facebook statuses or cryptic Instagram captions. I'm talking about real, heart-to-heart, look-you-in-the-eye communication. The kind where you express your needs, desires, and even those little pet peeves that drive you bonkers, but you do it with kindness and respect. Remember, your partner isn't a mind reader. Though again, wouldn't that make things easier? They can't possibly know what's going on in that head of yours unless you tell them. But here's the thing, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. Ditch the accusatory tone and those passive-aggressive sighs. Instead, try approaching conversations with a spirit of collaboration, like you're both on the same team working towards a common goal because, well, you are. We often get so caught up in the big picture of a relationship, marriage, kids, that dream vacation home, that we forget to appreciate the little things, those everyday moments that make up the fabric of a life together. Did your partner make you coffee this morning just the way you like it? Did they fold the laundry without being asked? Did they offer a listening ear after a particularly rough day? These small gestures, these acts of love and kindness, might seem insignificant on the surface, but they speak volumes about the depth of your connection. Take the time to notice them, to acknowledge them, and to express your gratitude. A simple thank you for being so thoughtful or a heartfelt hug can go a long way in strengthening your bond and reminding each other why you chose to be together in the first place. Having shared dreams and goals is fantastic. It gives you something to strive for together, a sense of purpose as a couple. But here's the thing. Those goals need to be grounded in reality, in a shared understanding of each other's strengths, limitations, and aspirations. Forcing your partner to embrace a dream that doesn't resonate with them is like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's just not going to work. It's going to lead to frustration, resentment, and a whole lot of unnecessary friction. Instead of imposing your vision on your partner, try creating a shared vision board, a collage of dreams, goals, and aspirations that reflect both of your desires. Talk about your individual ambitions and explore ways to support each other's growth, both as individuals and as a couple. Let's face it, folks, perfection is a myth. We all have our quirks, those endearing little oddities that make us who we are. Maybe your partner has a tendency to leave their socks on the floor, or they're always running late, or they have a laugh that could rival a hyena on a sugar rush. Those quirks, those imperfections, are part of what makes your partner unique. They're the brushstrokes that create the masterpiece of who they are. Instead of trying to erase those quirks, to sand down the edges and create a perfectly polished version of your partner, try embracing them. Remember, love isn't about finding someone who's flawless. It's about finding someone whose flaws you can accept, whose quirks you can embrace, and whose company you genuinely enjoy, even when they're driving you a little crazy. Now, accepting your partner's flaws doesn't mean resigning yourself to a lifetime of frustration or settling for a relationship that's less than fulfilling. It simply means recognizing that real change comes from within. You can't force your partner to change, no matter how much you might love them or how hard you try, but what you can do is create a space where growth is encouraged, where vulnerability is met with compassion, and where both partners feel safe to evolve and become the best versions of themselves. This means being supportive, offering encouragement, and celebrating each other's successes along the way. Remember, relationships are a journey, not a destination. There will be bumps along the way, detours, and unexpected challenges, but it's in those moments of growth, those times when you challenge each other to be better, that your bond becomes stronger and your love deepens. Well, folks, there you have it. We've journeyed through the often rocky terrain of relationship expectations, explored the pitfalls of wishful thinking, and uncovered the keys to building a love based on acceptance, understanding, and a whole lot of common sense. Remember that fixer-upper house we talked about earlier? Transforming it into the home of your dreams takes time, effort, and a whole lot of love. But most importantly, it requires accepting that house for what it is, its quirks, its flaws, and its unique potential. The same goes for relationships. Instead of trying to mold your partner into some idealized version of who you think they should be, embrace them for the wonderful, complex, sometimes frustrating, always lovable individuals they truly are. Relationships thrive when we let go of the fairy tale and embrace the beauty of a love story that's uniquely ours, messy bits and all. It's about recognizing that our partners, just like ourselves, are a work in progress, and that's perfectly okay. So the next time you find yourself wishing your partner would change, take a deep breath, adjust those rose-colored glasses and ask yourself, what is it about this expectation that's bothering me? Is this about them, or is it about me? Remember, folks, love isn't about changing each other. It's about growing together, supporting each other's dreams, and navigating life's adventures side by side, quirks and all. Thanks for joining us here at Common Sense USA. Remember, keep it real, keep it kind, and keep those expectations in check. Until next time.